what we are going to do is we are going to have now two demos from the codec in which I explain the concept. So the concept is in fact that two or more PCM channels, uncompressed audio channels, as two different, let's say, or three different vertical layers, can be mixed, dynamically mixed into one carrier. And that carrier is the master for surround sound. Yeah? Um, and the decoder at the playback can reveal out of that 5.1 the original mix like it was in Auro 3D. So that's the concept. And in fact, what we do is, in fact, the vertical stereo fields, or let's say the three vertical layers, we mix them into one layer in PCM, so it stays uncompressed audio, and you have that same audio quality. There is not a loss. That's what you're going to see in the next demo. Yeah, and then the decoder can reveal out of that the original sound. The magic part is that we stay in PCM, so we stay in the uncompressed domain, yeah, which has a lot of advantages in the workflow. Especially as well, you can do edits in it. You do not need a decoder, yeah. The moment when you going to, let's say, when you're going to edit certain stuff, so you can always hear the encoded result, which is unique because that's not possible with our competitors format. You always need a decoder to hear what is let's say, what is in the master. Yeah, so this is a few advantages. There will be more, but I explained it later in the demo. I think, Joe, is it possible that you perhaps start the first demo?
Yeah.
Where we see in fact the concept of how we can bring two channels into one channel, and then we can decode it, and perhaps we can have then some question and answers about it, and then before we go to the next demo. Okay?
Sounds good. The goal of this short demo is to show you the groundbreaking capabilities of the Auro 3D codec. We try to do it with a very simple example. So this is the ProTools session in which we are going to just to combine two PCM tracks, and we're going to decode them as well and compare the decoded version with the original version. So here is the plugin. You see the plugin. You can create different speaker layouts. The concept is that the high channels are going to be mixed together with the lower channels, and you can just offset them because of the volume as well. If you're going to bring them together, perhaps you have an overload. So it's very important you can offset and mix it like you should normally create a down mix in, let's say, from two channels or three channels into one channel. Now you see here as well a routing panel. That routing panel can bring up till 14 tracks into the plugin. So as you know, ProTools is limited to 7.1 buses, so we had to create a solution to bring 14 channels into ProTools and less channels coming out. But we keep that still in the PCM domain. So let's make now an example just with two channels to understand how the concept works. And I took two different songs, and we're going to mix them and unmix them. So this is the first song on the left side.
Running through the rainbow, running through the sun, I feel the rain soft on my tongue.
Now the other song on the right side.
But Odin alone would choose the day they would enter Valhalla. And in their hour of need, he sent...
So I intentionally took two different songs that people don't think there is something optimized, let's say, because it's a coherent sound field. It can be two different languages, it doesn't matter, So I drag those ones as a stereo track now, on which, let's say, the plugin is inserted. Now we are going, you see here, these two channels is coming out as one mono channel. So it's going to be matrixed as one channel, but we have all the creative possibilities because we can use the faders as well to make that down mix between those two channels. So you see here the output of 1 and 2 is going to one channel out. It is still PCM. So on the next track here, we are going to we're going to record the output of that plugin. And we are going to use as well the fader automation. So I can say, okay, automate fader 1 and 2, and we will use the fader automation from ProTools to automate that plugin, which allows as well during the workflow to start the downmix capabilities and the downmix control, so that the 5.1 from a creative point of view is exactly the 5.1 which you want to create. Yeah, good. So let's go now to execute mode, and I will do some funny things in the downmix.
Running through the rain.
But Odin alone would choose the day they would enter
I feel
Valhalla.
the rain soft
In their
on
hour of
my
need,
time.
he
So you
sent
saw how I took out one song and then the other song. Yeah, normally you do not have to do so drastic things in the downmix, but just to show you the capabilities of the codec. Yeah, just play it back and it will repeat automatically my downmix.
Running through the rain.
But Odin alone would choose the day they would enter
I feel
Valhalla.
the rain soft
In their
on
hour of
my
need,
time.
he sent forth
Good. So let's listen once more without this plugin, because what you heard was in fact already that mono track. Yeah, but to show it for clear, just listen only to that mono track.
Running through the rain.
But Odin alone would choose the day they would enter
I feel
Valhalla.
the rain soft
In their
on
hour of
my
need,
time.
he sent forth.
So this track is just PCM. So everybody can play it back on each device, because PCM is the mandatory format on all devices. Yeah. But if you have the Auro 3D codec, the Auro 3D codec decoder can reveal from that mono track exactly the original file without all this downmix information. So we are going now to put over this mono track the Auro 3D decoder. And you see it's showing here that one track will be split again in the original two tracks. Because we stay in the PCM domain, we are going to record on the next two tracks the decoder tracks. Yeah. Good, so we go now in execute mode, and you see we hear again the original two tracks.
Running through the rain.
But Odin alone
Running through
would
the
choose the day they would enter
I feel
Valhalla.
the rain soft
And in their hour of need, he sent forth.
Good. So what is fantastic is the speed of this codec. Yeah, this is the original waveform, and this is the decoded waveform. You see it's exactly the same. There's only a latency from two samples. There is no latency compensation on this plugin installed now. So you see that's the real decoder time. The decoder takes only one sample for each channel. So for two channels means two samples. For three channels is just three samples. It is the fastest decoder ever. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the quality. Yeah. So we're going to sync now the original tracks with the decoder tracks, and then we are going to invert the original from the decoded version. So you see here, this is the original version. I drag that one to a channel going to bus 3 and 4. I take the two decoded tracks and I drag them here as well, going to bus 3 and 4, but I'm going to invert one of both tracks. Invert that channel, and that channel is now coming together here on that input. Yeah, and you will see that's it. So if I'm muting one channel, yeah, or if I mute the other one, you see it is about those channels. And you see there is no loss at all. A high resolution quality in each channel. That's the groundbreaking capability of the Auro 3D codec and staying in the PCM domain.
Wow.
All right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So basically you're able to fold everything into a mono track and then
Oh, don't say fold.
all right, now you can combine
That's another thing.
combine it and then send it out, and then whoever receives it can extract it, I guess, using the decoder, right?
Exactly. So the point is, and the question is, everybody said, but how is this possible? Because the minimum that you change in an uncompressed audio track, you immediately hear it. Yeah, it's not completely true, but it is true. I see there Tim Perry says stereo to mono to stereo, no loss. Exactly, there is no audible loss. Yeah, is it bit lossless? No. Yeah, and that's what I would like to explain. Yeah. You know, we are working for a long time in 24-bit. Yeah. Now, 24-bit is a dynamic range, yeah, which is interesting to have during the workflow, because then you have some let's say for rounding errors, and you have, let's say, a kind of a range, some extra, yeah. But in fact, as a reproduction delivery format, we don't need that, yeah. You know that about every in sampling, every bit takes about 6 dB on dynamic range. So 16-bit equals, it's, let's say, the first 3 bits you have to drop is in fact like 96 minus 3 is like 93 dB dynamic range. And what is dynamic range? I have an interesting paper. Perhaps we can share it as well with the group, yeah? Is this something that you can, perhaps now I have to leave now my PowerPoint out, and I'm going to share with you that paper. Oh, stop screen. Was I sharing something at this moment?
That was the
There you go.
PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
yeah,
now,
okay.
now you can share something else.
So you guys can ask questions out there too. So if you have any questions about what that particular demo that he just showed, go ahead and ask your questions, and we'll bring them up here. And
So you're saying no audible difference, but there is a slight bit of a degradation in quality that we're not going to notice.
Exactly. It's not hearable. You cannot hear it, and I explain you why you cannot hear it, yeah? Because that's very interesting, yeah? Let's say this codec is not working on psychoacoustic optimization. You know that if you're going to, let's say, all these lossy codecs that our competitors are using, or like with MPEG or let's say AAC analysis, there's all this kind of solutions to bring it to a smaller bandwidth needed, yeah? They use psychoacoustic optimization. And what does it mean, yeah? They take out certain elements for which they might believe that we are not so sensitive, but our brain picks it up. And it is creating artifacts which are for our brain not, let's say, which is creating in the long-term fatigue, yeah. Our brain doesn't like so much those artifacts, yeah. And a lot of it has to do with spatial information. A lot of spatial information is taken out, yeah. I give you a simple example, yeah. If you do 2 claps after each other, yeah, like this, yeah, you hear the second one. But if you do it very fast, yeah, you almost don't hear the second one anymore. So they try to find optimization things with spatial information that immediately it looks like it is not obvious in the track, yeah, and by taking it out, it is not obvious either, but it creates artifacts which is creating, yeah, kind of distortion. It is real distortion that you're adding on it, yeah. So